Hey Jerry, this is Jonathan, and this is a overview of how to create a custom profile for weldment. So what we have is I've got your original file, and what I'm going to do is just delete the extrusion, and by doing so, then we'll see the rest of the details in the imported sketch that you have. So this was what was imported from the DWG import. And what we need to do is delete everything that we don't want included in the profile. So I'm just going to delete these other sections, and I'll fit this and just show that that all we're dealing with is this one, the one single profile. So I'm going to leave this as it is for the moment. So I'm just going to do a file and a save as, just so that we don't lose our work. So I'll just call this step 1 profile. Okay, now let's take a look at what a weldment is intended to be set up as. So here's an example of a sketch segment that I made, and it is 60 inches long. So you can see that it's 60 inches long. And the way the weldments are set up to work is you would turn on your weldment tab. If you don't have it, just right click on any of the tab buttons and select weldment. So you can see now I don't have my weldment option anymore. Just right click on one and select weldments, and we have the weldments tab. And so what we'll do is select structural member, and I'm going to pick a type. So I'll say ANSI inch. I'm going to use the square tube, and let's use a 2x2 at a quarter. And then we'll select the group. Now what you'll notice is it applies the profile, that's what's in gray, that's our sketch profile, and it extrudes it along the path. Now if I had a path set up ahead of time that had a right angle in it, or some other change, so let's just give this a dimension. We'll say 20, and let's make sure that these are perpendicular. Whoops, take that last one out. So perpendicular, okay? So 60 by 20, I say okay, and I can update my profile, make sure I select the second group, and we can see that the weldment option creates the cuts that we need to put that tubing together. So very cool, right? So this is our goal, is to be able to take the profile, these are existing profiles, but to be able to take your profile and turn it into a weldment. So to do that, I want to give you a couple examples. So in this case, we have a profile that has been set up from the system library, but originally you'll notice it was 25 or 0.25 inches thick. And so I modified it and I made it 3/8, okay? And then we would save this off. So I'll exit, and I'd say File and Save As. And the important part of this is that it's a library feature part. So SLD LFP, that's the library feature part. And you'll notice that I detailed it out as a 2x2 by 375. So it's unique. This is my new profile. And by saving it off, I can now come back to my weldment, right click and say edit, and rather than using the standard, I can use my thicker option here. You can see it just shows up in the list. When I apply it, you can see that it's now this thicker profile, and when we accept it, it updates at both sections. So everything is done for us. That's the power of weldments. So the question comes in, how do I create a profile from this guy? Okay, so our step 1 was remove everything we don't want. Step 2 is we need to come in and just make sure that the sketch is properly set up. So I'm going to use a tool that we have under sketch tools. So tools, sketch tools, and then we have this check sketch for feature. This is one of the details that's covered in the essentials course. So I'm going to check my base extrude. Just leave it with the detail and say check. And what it's going to find is that there are some issues with it, and it will identify them. So it's telling me that there are 5, and I think we zoomed out, so I'm going to use our tool here. And I want to be able to look at each of the details. So you can see by using the arrows, it highlights a section on our sheet. You might have the zoom feature that'll show us, more easily. It'll zoom into an area, and you can see that in this case, this end is not trimmed off. So we need to clean that up. So I'm going to use the trim tool and just trim off those end segments. Now, if I refresh, that'll remove that 5th profile, and so now I'm off to my next one. And if I use the show magnifying glass, it will give me the area that I'm interested in. Okay, so I'll zoom in, and let's just, there's a segment out in space. So let's turn this off, zoom in, and we can get rid of this segment. Okay, then we'll just go to our next one. We'll just refresh so that we're removing the details. It looks like possibly there is an additional line here. That's what I think is going on. So I'm going to hit delete, and there's a couple segments. Is that the deal? So I've got 2 issues left. Here's an additional segment, so I'm going to delete that. And it looks to me like we've got like another segment, so I'll delete that. Hey, look at that. Now we're refreshing. I don't have any more issues. All the segments are gone. So that's good. The sketch is cleaned up. Now the other thing about weldment setup is wherever the origin is, this is the origin. Wherever the origin is where the profile is going to be applied. So to properly set up our model, we typically would want that in the middle of our profile. So there's a couple things we can do. I don't really know what your what all these other dimensions are supposed to be, and I could define it, but just for something for me to work with, I'm going to use a rectangle tool and start from one corner to the other. I'll just zoom in, and I'm going to set that in place. And I'm going to tell the system I want this for construction, because it's kind of like a box that I'm going to use. And the reasoning is so that I can find the center of that profile. So I'm going to just use another construction line. You may find that if your profile is set up, you don't have to do this. I'm doing it just because I don't know your profile very well. And this will allow us to find the center so that we can apply it properly. And actually, it's interesting, with the bounding box, we're seeing that there's some symmetry that's lacking in this sketch. So the sketch part is what's going to depend on you. You'll want to set that up. But what I'm really interested in is setting a point where those two cross, because that'll be the center of our model. And so what I'm going to do is use our move entities command, and I'll highlight everything that I want to move. You can see it created a pretty big list there. And we'll move all the way down, and then I'm going to use from a start point. And so I want that start point to be where we created that cross here. So I'm going to use that and move this over to my origin. So now it's placed in my origin. I'm just going to use the escape key or the OK to place it. And everything is going to be centered on origin. Now our last step, because I don't know the details of this, I'm just going to use the kind of a cheater option and go to fully define sketch. Okay, so I'll select fully defined sketch, and I'm just going to say I want all the entities. So we'll calculate, and everything is now in black, so we know that it found everything, and it's all locked down in space. So I'm going to exit our sketch. All right. So this is properly prepared to be a profile. And to make it a profile, we'll just highlight the sketch there that was named model, and I'll say file and save as. Now the key in a profile is that it is a LIB LFP, so that SLD library feature part. And then we need to save it into the right location. So to do that, of course I worked ahead and looked up my profile location, so I'll just read it to you. It's Program Files, SolidWorks Corp 2016, SolidWorks Language, English, weldment profiles. Okay, and you'll notice that I created a folder for you. So I made this S and J glass. We're going to drill in a level and find out that I've got inch and metric. So I'm going to use the inch. And then in this case, I think we'll just call this example 1. You could name it whatever you want. You might know the proper term, but example, I'll just say 01. And I'll hit save. And what we'll notice is that there's a feature change on that sketch. So now we know that it's a part of a library. And now, if I'm holding Control and Tab to just switch to another window, and I'm going to go back to my example existing, and I will right click and say edit feature. And instead of this ANSI inch, I'm going to change to S and J glass. Okay? And make sure we select the type. Type was inch, and then the size was example 01. And we can see that the profile updated, so it's following the path exactly where I set the center point. You can change that. If you add more points, you can change it. All of that comes through our weldments class, and so I'll say OK and accept it, and look at what we have. So not only does the weldment save us time because it makes the chamfers for us, look at how nicely those come together, but it also does us a job in creating a cut list. So here's the 2 pieces, and we have a cut list that we would be able to generate.